be able to do, and what I'm doing is a full top replacement. So the solenoid was replaced on this, didn't fix the problem. Their solenoid was replaced because it was having issues with corrosion. It hadn't actually failed at that point, but there's something else going on inside the valve. Now, to make it easier, I'm just doing a full top replacement, and then there's no diagnostics necessary. I literally just take the top off and put a new top on. So the valve I'm using for replacement, it's a Rainbird DVF valve. That's the exact same valve down in there. When you're doing these type of top replacements, you have to get the exact same valve. You can't just pick one that's the same brand and go with it. You have to make sure that it's the same model. So first of all, putting on the best gloves for irrigation. Absolutely love these gloves. They're Nitex P200s. I'll have a link for them online. Okay. One thing that I haven't shown in my previous videos is one of my favorite tools to use instead of using a shovel. Sometimes I use a little hand shovel, but I also use the trowel that you use for doing tile. And that's because when you're working in boxes, that tip can get right down underneath the valves. So you're able to clean out all the stuff around the valves very easily. So where this, it fits, but you have to kind of turn it sideways, and it's a little harder to get in there and do what you got to do. It's fine, it works, but my favorite cleaning around valves is this guy. So I'll put a link for this as well. I'll find one on Amazon that's almost identical to what I use and put a link in there. So all I'm doing is cleaning out around it so I don't have debris around the valve itself. So what I'm going to do is use the multi-tool. Again, there will be links for all of this stuff in the description. Use the multi-tool, which is basically just a screwdriver. It gives you different bits, is all it does. And I'm going to remove all the screws out of here. One thing I didn't show you about this multi-tool is that when you remove the flathead side, it gives you the tool that will actually fit the hex part of this screw or bolt, whichever you want to call it. It's kind of a mixture of the two. So it gives you a little bit more control, a little bit more force that you can put on it to be able to get that out. So again, just pulling all of them. Okay, so now you can see where they were down inside there. Comes right off. Take this component off and set it aside. Carefully remove the diaphragm. And then this is not going to be used. I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. Unfortunately, this is an old enough one. It uses a slightly different screw head, which it works with a Phillips, but I can't use that tool. Unfortunately, sometimes when you get the same model but they're old enough, sometimes they won't actually work. I've found that to be very true with Orbit. Not so much with Rainbird and Hunter. I've had success replacing old ones on Rainbird and Hunter. One thing to note about this, the water obviously needs to be off since we're opening it up. This one I didn't have to turn off the system because it has a master valve. So that's one major perk to having a master valve, is you can pretty much work on the system whenever you want without having to worry about without having to worry about the water coming and soaking you or causing problems. So, okay, now I'll move all this stuff out of the way. My goal right now is to keep that clean down there. You can see something's already fallen on it. So I'm tucking everything out of the way, get this root out of there, and then I carefully move everything away from it. See, that makes me a little nervous. I want to make sure that that hole does not get plugged, because if that's plugged, the system won't operate. So carefully, there we go, pry that up. And you want to keep it as clean as possible in there. And you can see that hole where I was talking about is where that's plugged. However, I can see down here it has not gotten plugged. So then I'm going to pull off the glove for this just to make sure that I don't run into any problems. But there's the new one. Came right out of the inside of the new valve. Oops, right there. Again, I try to make sure no debris gets down inside there. And then I try to push the gasket down in where it belongs, because it's got kind of a little spot that it seats. And then always, when you put these on, the solenoid goes the direction of flow. Obviously, I can look at this one, but if it's a single valve in here, you pull it and you don't remember which way it goes. The solenoid, in almost all cases, there's a few valves that don't, but the solenoid will go in the direction of flow, so on this side, because the flow, here's the main line's on this side, and it's flowing that way. So basically, I just line it up and drop it straight down on. There's that spring in the middle. Now I want to make sure that spring sits where it's supposed to, which is going straight down. It'll catch exactly where it's supposed to as long as I'm lined up. And I typically go in a cross pattern to start it, just like if you were to do a tire. And I keep hold on this until I have those three tightened up. Now that it's tightened up, whoops, I go back around again. I didn't click that in place. I go back around again and make sure that they're snug. And then I start working on the other cross pattern. I go with the next one here, jump across again, and that way it just helps to get that seated as flat as possible. Okay, and then finally, I just make sure that those are snug. And I'll do the same thing again for the ones that I did first, just to make sure. Sometimes when you tighten other ones up, it loosens the ones adjacent to it, or next to it, or what, yeah. Okay, now the wiring. Now I'm not concerned about the stuff and getting dirty inside here. I know this is the valve I gotta pull wiring from. So as a reference guide, I set it down by the hole, and then I follow it back to the one it belongs to, unhook it, and if it's clean, I use it. If it's not clean, I cut it off. I can tell you right now, it is clean, because I already replaced it this year. Otherwise I would strip it back and do it again. And wrap this guy around here. Using a fresh wire nut, brand new one. Again, those will be on the link. Using a fresh wire nut, replacing it, and twist until it tightens up both of them. And that way you can pull back and you know it's not coming apart. Okay, again, follow this back. You see it goes to the blue wire nut, and that's because this is the common wire, and this one, basically what I would do, see how it pulls it out, pull it back, and it pulls that wire right out of inside there. Then I want to make sure, again, that these, I know they're clean, otherwise I would re-strip them and redo them. Again, find the one that comes from that solenoid, put them all together, try to get it nice and twisted up right there so that it goes together like that. And then use a brand new, and in this case it's blue because it can do the larger wiring or multiples in that larger size. Sometimes it makes it hard to catch when there's that many wires in there, so you just push in and keep twisting until you can see now it's really starting to twist it up. And I'll always tug back to make sure that I have no loose ones, because if I have a loose one, there's poor connection. That's what it takes to be able to change it out. That valve is fresh and ready to go. Get that garbage out of there. So I threw it down in. And the only thing that's good on this one is the solenoid, because I know that I replaced that with a brand new solenoid. Thanks for watching. Like and share.